Hey everybody, welcome back to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com and another segment of Questions and Coffee with David. This is where I get up bright and early, and it's 4:52 a.m. this morning, and answer all your questions before I head down into the studio and start working on more content to help you make better music in your home studio. So if you want one of your questions answered in an upcoming segment of Questions and Coffee, please send it to info@HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. That's info@HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. And if you like what you see in this video, please hit that subscribe button. Also, go out to Facebook.com/HomeRecordingMadeEasy and follow me there. And also go over to Twitter @HomeRecordingMadeEasy and check me out there as well. All that stuff helps me out tremendously, and I appreciate your support. And once again, for more tips, tricks, concepts, and training around all aspects of home recording, mixing, and mastering, be sure, as always, to head out to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com and check out the Quick Mix series and the Made Easy series. It will help you make better music and better productions in your home studio, I promise you. So now let's head on over to this week's first question, question number 1. Okay, question number 1 comes from my good buddy Mike, and Mike writes in, "Hey Dave, hope all is well and I'm sure you're busy. I just wanted to ask, what software do you use to screen capture of your DAW screen and the audio from that source? I'm looking forward to your response. Thanks as always, Mike." Well, thanks Mike for writing in. So the way I capture my my screen and my DAW when I'm doing video tutorials for you guys is I use ScreenFlow. I'm on a Mac. I use ScreenFlow. The PC equivalent to ScreenFlow, I believe, is called Camtasia. Both very, very similar, but I use ScreenFlow. Now, the way it's a little bit tricky the way ScreenFlow works with DAWs and capturing the audio, and I have kind of a workaround that I have to do in order to get my audio, my vocal mic into ScreenFlow and get the DAW into ScreenFlow and get everything balanced. So what I do is I run my vocal mic into a separate small Allen & Heath 4-channel mixer. I believe it's called the ZED10 mixer, but that is a USB mixer. So I put my vocal mic into channel 1 on the Allen & Heath mixer. Then I take the outputs of my audio interface, which happens to be a Studio Live 32, PreSonus Studio Live 32 mixer. The outputs of that go to channel 2 and 3, left and right, on the Allen & Heath mixer. So I have my vocal mic on one channel, the DAW coming in on channels 2 and 3, and then from there I take the USB cable off my USB mixer, the Allen & Heath, into my Mac, and then ScreenFlow, I use the Allen & Heath as the input source, and that allows me to be able to balance the levels between my vocal mic and the DAW session, if that makes sense. And it's a long-winded answer on why you kind of have to do it that way. You just can't use the Studio Live 32 and plug my vocal mic in and then also use a DAW. ScreenFlow doesn't really capture it that way. It's just, trust me, it's you got to do kind of a workaround. Now, I don't know if Camtasia does something different, but the problem with screen capture software, at least in the past and with ScreenFlow, is you always got to kind of do a workaround to get it to capture your vocal mic and the DAW easily. Now, they do make other pieces of software like Soundflower and Wiretap Anywhere. There's other pieces of software that'll help you do the same thing to eliminate the piece of hardware, but I've never been fans of those software, and they don't usually always work that consistently or all that well. So that's how I do it. I use ScreenFlow, and that's how I capture the DAW audio to help create training tutorials for you. So I hope that answers your question. If you have any other questions, be sure to write in, and I'll help you as much as I possibly can. Thanks, Mike, for writing in. So let's head on to question number 2. Okay, question number 2 comes from Roger, and Roger asks, "Hope you're doing great, and thanks for the great business tips series and the coffees and question videos." Well, thanks so much for watching. I hope they're helping, and I appreciate the kind words. "I've been primarily mixing with KRK 8400s. These are headphones. I have the same ones. But I've been using them through a PreSonus Audio Box USB. Is this the right way to use them for mixing, or can I plug the headphones directly into my MacBook Pro's headphone jack and mix that way? The reason I ask is folks have listened to my mixes, and they always mention that the bass and the kick sounded extremely boomy, and the lows were overpowering the rest of the instrumentation. When I heard it through my audio box KRK setup, but it sounded well balanced using earbuds directly into my MacBook jack. Have I been misled by going through the audio box headphone jack?" Okay, so it's a little worded strange here, but probably a typo, so no big deal. Let me see if I can figure this out. So when you listen through your headphones, the KRK 8400s, which I have the same headphones, they're fantastic headphones for mixing. You plug it into your audio box, headphone jack, and you're saying that when you listen to it on the KRKs, everything sounds a little bit boomy on the low end. But when you listen to your regular earbuds through your MacBook, the headphone jack, everything sounds well balanced. Okay, so first off, you got a great set of headphones. Your audio box USB is not the problem. If I'm understanding you correctly, the audio box USB jack is not the problem. So if you're listening through the KRKs through your audio box, or through any headphone jack for that matter, on those headphones, no matter what you plug them into, the mix should sound the same, and it will. If it sounds boomy and overpowering, that means you have too much low end in your mix. The reason why they sound well balanced on earbuds is not because of the jack on the MacBook, it's because the earbuds have much smaller speakers in them, and therefore you're not getting that real low end frequency response in the earbuds. Earbuds usually sound really thin and they sound really tinny. So if it sounds well balanced, and that's an instant sign telling me that you have way too much low end in your mix. So the KRKs are great headphones because they're well balanced and they're pretty flat, and from my experience they sound very, very similar in accuracy to my studio monitors. And so I use KRKs all the time, especially when I'm creating tutorials for the Made Easy series and the Quick Mix series. I'm doing most of that through headphones, and I know the mixers are pretty darn accurate. Now I would always check them somewhere else, and I would check them on earbuds as a way to just kind of give yourself a reference point. But if you're listening to mixes and people are telling you it sounds boomy, and if you're listening to them on the KRKs or the audio box and it sounds boomy, then it's too boomy, you have too much low end. So I would work on getting your low end, you know, bring that low end down, your bass and your kick drum, and try to balance those out a little bit more, and use some EQ to try to, you know, sculpt the sound a little bit better. But don't worry about excuse me, about being misled. You're not being misled at all. You're doing the right thing. It sounds like you just have too much low end. And the reason why it sounds well balanced with the earbuds is because the earbud speakers are very thin and they don't get a low frequency response. You're not going to hear those real low ends in those little earbuds. So I hope that answers your question. If I misunderstood, or if you have any more questions, please feel free to write it in. I'll be sure to help you and get back to that mixing. Sounds like you're on your way. Okay, so now let's head on to question number 3. Okay, question number 3 comes from Kevin, and Kevin writes in, "Hi David, I've been following you for several years now, and I love your YouTube channel and all you do for the Made Easy videos. I have them all." Well, thanks Kevin, I really appreciate that. Thanks for supporting the products, and I hope they're helping you. I have a quick question for you. About how long does it take you to mix a song with roughly 30 tracks? I ask because I've read conflicting things online from different engineers, where some people take days to mix a song and others only take a few hours. I find myself taking about 8 hours to mix a song with about 24 to 30 tracks. However, when I go back and re-listen to the mix, I find myself continuing to tweak things over and over. And I guess my question really is, how do I know when the mix is good enough and done? Thanks for all you do, and keep up the amazing work. Us newbies really appreciate it. Thanks, Kevin. Well, thanks, Kevin, for writing in. I certainly appreciate the question. And yes, this is, if you're a newbie, and that's great, and I'm glad you got all the products, and I'm glad they're helping you. And this is something that I struggled with as a new engineer for many, many years. And sometimes I have to kind of remind myself too. You asked a very good question at the end. The question really is, how do you know when it's good enough and it's done? And the answer to that question is, when it sounds good to you. When it sounds good to you, it's done. Or in the case if you're working with a client, when it sounds good enough to your client, it's done. Now I know that's very subjective. One of the traps that we fall into, especially in the digital realm, where we have all these great plugins and we can edit things quickly and we can move things around and we could do so much inside of a DAW, it seems like the tweakability thing is endless. You got to know when to be done. So here's what I've done for myself over the years. I used to find myself taking days to mix a song and never really happy. Okay, and I'm always constantly, you know, you can listen to a mix, think it's great, come back 2 days later and find something to tweak. Then you can listen to that, 2 days later come back and find something to tweak. You could go on like this forever. You can listen to your the most famous artists in the world, the most popular records that you enjoy listening to today or when you were growing up. If you go listen to those mixes now, even though they're professionally mixed and mastered, I guarantee you could find something that you, the listener, would maybe do a little bit differently. I think it's very rare that you'd find a mix that you would say, it's perfect, I wouldn't change a thing. I know that's out there, but I'm sure there's lots of mixes you would listen to, professional mixes, mixed by the most popular mixing engineers on the planet, and you'd find something that you would do differently, because this is a very subjective thing. There are a set of guidelines, but the overall, how good is it, when is it done, is very subjective. So here's what I've done. On a track this size, I try to limit myself to about 4 hours. Now, this is after the session has been imported, things have been organized and cleaned up, and all my editing is done. Okay, to me, mixing is two separate things. You have the editing piece and you have the mixing piece. The editing piece is cleaning tracks, doing fade-ins and fade-outs, quantizing things, tuning vocals, de-essing vocals, color coding tracks, you know, all that stuff, all that technical, busy stuff. That's one part of mixing, part one, okay? That usually on a song this size, depending on the session, could take me 2 hours, let's say, roughly. Then I leave myself about 3 to 4 hours, 4 hours at most, to mix the song, where I'm adding plugins, EQ, compression, so on and so forth. And I try to move pretty quickly. Over time, what you're going to find as you get better at this, you're going to have a go-to set of plugins you're going to use. You're going to have instincts that are going to take over. You're going to listen to something and you're going to know exactly what to do. And when you get to that stage, you can mix a song of this size typically in a couple of hours for the first pass. So what I try to do is I try to work as quickly as I can. I listen to the song, I get a feel, I have a reference track, I kind of know what I'm going for, and then I start mixing. And, you know, I'd say 2 to 3 hours is usually where I can have a pretty good, not really a rough mix, better than a rough mix, maybe an 80% done mix. Then I take a break. And I'll walk away, come back a couple hours later, and I'll listen to it again, and I'll make a set of tweaks. And then I'll take another break, 15, 20 minutes, come back and do the final set of tweaks. So usually when it's all said and done, it's right around 4 hours. I can have something that I would be usually pretty confident with giving to a client as a first mix. And then there's always going to be revisions. Okay, you're not going to send something off to a client, it's going to be perfect. That's rare. It's always going to be a revision. Turn this up, turn this down, blah, blah, blah. There's always going to be little something. But you should be able to get really, really close in about 4 hours. Okay? And then over time, you're going to just kind of know when is it good enough and it's done. If you're mixing for yourself and it's your own music, you're going to be your own worst critic. So what I would suggest you do is when you think it sounds good, if you feel like no matter what you do, it's just not sounding, you always find something you want to tweak, let some friends and family listen to it and see what they think. Because you as an engineer, as a musician, are going to be a lot more critical. You're going to hear things that the average music listener is not going to hear. Okay, now I'm giving you a broad set of guidelines here, and I'm saying things that are very subjective, but this is just a way to think about this. So if you're mixing your own music and you're having trouble getting done, send off some mixes to some friends and family. Let them give you some feedback. That's the best way to know. If they think it sounds great and they think, wow, it really sounds good, then you're done. And also give yourself a time limit. Start with 4 hours. Do all the editing. Get all that out of the way. Then hit the timer 4 hours. And try to go through as quickly as possible without getting too hung up in any one thing. And try to get things balanced in a way. And do it quickly. Usually that's going to give you your best results. I find that the more you tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak, the worse the mix ends up getting in the end. And you go so far down a rabbit hole, you can't always get yourself back. So I hope that helps, Kevin. I know I gave you some generalizations here, but that's kind of the thought process that I have on this. If you have any other questions as you're working through this, you can certainly email me. And I'll try to help you even further to kind of guide you down the right way. But I do appreciate that you have all the videos. I hope they're helping you. If you have any questions on any one of my products, please feel free to email me as well. And again, Kevin, thank you for writing, and I appreciate your support. So that's it for this week's Questions and Coffee with David. Again, if you want one of your questions answered in the next video or an upcoming segment, please send it to info@homerecordingmadeeasy.com. And once again, go out to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and subscribe, follow, like, share, please. It really does help me. I super appreciate it. Help spread the word of Home Recording Made Easy, and always go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com for all your training needs around home recording, mixing, and mastering. And until the next Questions and Coffee video, I've been David Vignola with homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll speak to you all soon. Take care.